Well, firstly, thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. It's wonderful to be amongst this panel today. Very specifically, looking to appreciate the work that Child Chapter is doing, and of course, with Mr. Jakir, who is not here with us right now, but is very much involved in all his efforts to ensure child safety, women's safety more specifically. From the UAE's standpoint, I think today we are specifically speaking on female genocide, sex selection, abortion, which are issues that we face as humanity. These are not women issues, these are real humanitarian issues. I think gender imbalance has a really catastrophic effect on our society, and increased sexual violence is really a catalyst to this entire reality. Unfortunately, we do know that together the two largest countries, by the virtue of their population, account for more than 90 to 95% of the estimated missing female births worldwide, caused by gender biased sex selection by families. This is not a medical decision, this is an individual, personal, family decision that one takes. So we do know that for some reason, baby girls and female gender have always been neglected by their societies. Unfortunately, what are the reasons for that? That is a very different topic altogether. But we do know that wherever we've had problems having daughters around or female child around, more specifically in societies where you lack education and literacy around this specific arena. The UAE, for example, I can tell you from the UAE standpoint that this country is a true flag bearer for women's rights, for ensuring child safety, women's safety. At the same time, having the option to choose the kind of birth, the kind of individual choices that one wants to make. But then you need to be educated to know that a woman or a child or the female gender is not a burden. It is, in fact, in my opinion, the most powerful tool that any country can have. The UAE has made really important reforms in the recent past in terms of domestic violence protections. It ranks first in the world when it comes to treating females with respect and street harassment, and those are not the kind of things one will ever experience in the UAE. This country, you can walk at 2 o'clock in the morning and still be safe with your child. So I think that is a very strong statement that we come across as a very proud country. Very important to know that strong political commitment and community level action is required to stop this kind of an activity. And I reiterate, these are not medical decisions, these are family decisions that one takes. So you need to start from there. Of course, where we are all aware that the UAE empowers women. When you empower women, society notices. When society notices, decisions are influenced. So, for example, in the UAE government, out of the 32 ministries, 9 are occupied by female ministers. We have very important portfolios that are handled by female ministers, and this cabinet representation is much higher than most Western nations. So, this participation, you can say, is the highest in the Middle Eastern world, reflecting the position of where women in the UAE are today. And this is extremely important because this is a complete testament to how we treat the female gender in this part of the world. For example, the Dubai Foundation for Women and Children was established in the year 2007, offering protection, support services for women and children in the UAE against domestic violence, child abuse, and human trafficking. It is an NPO which is in the UAE that specifically runs for the care of women and children. The services are completely in accordance with the international human rights obligation. There are a lot of specific campaigns that the UAE and Dubai and specifically has organized in specific vis-a-vis raising awareness about sexual assault, child abuse, prevent physical and emotional abuse of children by mobilizing adults, families, and communities to take action to protect the children before they are harmed. I think very important to know that empowered women and girls contribute to the health and productivity of families, and awareness of their value and contribution is essential to changing behaviors and changing mentality, because it's only then that you can actually achieve change. One very important thing that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Prime Minister of Dubai, ensured that harassment of women in public is becoming more aggressive. Say a lot, or it was becoming previously, and Sheikh Mohammed mentioned that in order to ensure that this completely stops, to arrest those men who harass women in public and their pictures to be published in newspapers so that people know that you cannot do this and get away with it. This is by the Prime Minister of the UAE, and we're very proud of initiatives like that, wherein such activities are severely condemned. Emirati women, I think, have been a part of all the national projects that, whether it's the Hope probe, the UAE going to the Mars for space exploration, or for the nuclear power plant that has been recently announced as well. So these are the kind of important, delicate, and rather very, very essential from a national perspective where women play pivotal roles. One other aspect that I'd like to really highlight is that access to education and reproductive health services really empowers women, improve their health, productivity, and status. Female genital mutilation is banned in the state hospitals and clinics in the UAE. Healthcare for women is widely accessible. There are many specialized general hospitals where you can access any kind of treatments. In fact, the maternal mortality rate in the UAE is 6 deaths per 1,000 births. It's about the same as that in the United States, wherein abortion is illegal, criminalized, except in cases that are very specific and definite. Well, I think we are in the 50th year of the UAE. This country is celebrating its 50 years now, and it's really come a long way in supporting women. The reason why I reiterate supporting women is important because, like I said, society notices how women are embracing and women are taking up the positions that are vital, that matter, and their lives are extremely important. The government has really championed women in the same way as we can have employment to the male counterparts, where it comes to equal pay, maternity leave, substantial health and family welfare facilities. UAE also amended its personal status law, revised various articles of civil and criminal law that support women. It prohibited domestic violence, issued numerous resolutions in favor of women, avoiding monthly financial assistance to widows, divorcees, abandoned women, female citizens married to foreign husbands. So we do have a lot of intercultural births and a lot of marriages that take place in this part of the world when it's quite complex when you have to make that differentiation and support everybody. But at the end of the day, I think one of the most important things is that we must educate people on the inherent value of human life, equality, and really break the stereotype of ancient practices that really devalue women, children. We should really not accept the practices that say a man's life is worth more than a woman's life. So I think that is where the distinction and that change in mentality needs to come. I'll share a very personal anecdote conclusively is that, uh, for example, in our family, we don't really have that kind of a notion where uh, when I got into initially in my life, when I started my career, I was more in the lines of oil and gas and ship cutting and waste management. And you technically don't have any women in that sector even today, barring a few. Uh, and my mother was initially very, very apprehensive about how this is going to play out in the long run. But, and you have those instances where parents are careful, they are slightly looking forward to safeguard you from everything that would come up. And my father said that you wouldn't have said that had it been a male child. So I think that's where the distinction really comes, and we need to have that intelligence that it's okay. You can have your challenges, you can have the problems, but at the end of the day, remember you have to empower your children, whether be it male or female, and at no cost is devaluing women or the female gender or children or any kind of abuse to female child is acceptable. It's not negotiable in any society, in any strata of society. It should be condemned. It should have severe punitive actions. And of course, this starts from your family, this starts from your society. And also, very importantly, the government, the regulation should completely condemn this. They should shame it and they should have severe consequences for the perpetrators of any of these activities. Thank you so much. I look forward to hearing the rest of the my fellow experts. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, greetings from India. Small presentation. So I'll start my presentation. Just switch off for the video. As we are discussing about let girls be born. So this is my curriculum vitae. In fact, I have 38 plus years of experience in the field of petroleum. So all along, I have been a technical person. And when Mr. Zakir contacted me on this particular issue, I said, okay, with the help of a couple of case studies, whatever I encountered during my stay with an oil company, which is a Fortune 500 listed company, that is Indian Oil. So I would like to put before those points, which I could gather when I was with Indian Oil. So all along I have been in the technical field, but in the process, I did my MBA. And specifically, I have chosen the human resources as the topic of my specialization. Now, why I have chosen this human resources is primarily to understand the interplay between the machine and man, or the machine and human resource. And in the process, I met and interacted with women colleagues in various spheres of activities as seniors to me, my peers, my juniors, within the organization and the department and outside. And incidentally, I had very different experience, which I wish to share with all of you with a different perspective altogether. In this particular presentation, what I did was I tried to evaluate the women on 5 elements of the nature. These are the 5 elements of the nature. Nature of the universe consists of 5 elements, the forces. In Hindi, it is known as tattvas. So even our body is made up of all these 5 elements, like earth, we call it in Hindi Prithvi, water, in Hindi it's jal, air, it's vayu in Hindi, fire, which is agni in Hindi, space, which is akash in Hindi. So balancing these 5 elements can help harness their true potential and bring prosperity to the life. So in 38 plus years of my active professional career in the technology sector, I've seen women successfully balancing and harnessing each of these elements. So women are not only capable of balancing these elements for bringing prosperity, but they are also able to excel in each of these tattvas or the elements, even beyond the imaginary threshold, which I would like to share. So these are basically the 5 elements. I try to put in the type of work being done presently by the women in all these 5 elements of the universe of the nature. Like, for example, at the petrol pump, up till yesterday, it was the job of men only. But now you can see women, they came forward and they are doing a lot of job, which was earlier being done by the men. So likewise, when we talk about the water, the second element of the Panchabhuta or this particular thing, you can see that they are involved in the activities in the water also. In the air, no, women are flying fighter aircrafts, right? They are refueling the aircrafts at the airport, which was up till yesterday being done by the men only. Now, when it comes to fire, it's not only that they are confined to the kitchen. They are working in the refineries, wherein a lot of work related to fire is there. For example, any column, any fractionation, or any distillation requires large amount of fire. So they are also playing with fire. And then you know that India has also conquered the space, and Kalpana Chawla is one who went to the space. So the women, they are mastering. They are there in all the 5 essential elements of the universe. So, and not just in the petroleum and technology sector, women are shining examples when it comes to excelling physically, intellectually, and financially. Whether it's scientists working to make Earth a better place to live, to brave naval officers defending our country's waterfronts and coastline, to Air Force pilots guarding our skies, to brave officers in the military combat roles, who are playing with fire every day and to literally touching new heights in space, as I've discussed in the last slide. So let us imagine one thing. Can we imagine a world without women? Now, this might be what comes to mind, that everywhere there'll be men, men, and men only. But please think again and think deeply. Actually, the situation is pretty different. A world without women looks more like this: nothing. A world without women is really a world not worth living in, and literally so. The progression of a species grinds to a grinding halt, and eventually our great human race would die down. So, no woman, no man, or no mankind. So, women is so important. They are complementing with the men in order to have a species enjoying onto the earth. So, therefore, women, presence of women, and empowerment of women is essentially required. Now comes another very important subject, at why daughters are disincentive. So I have listed down, based on my experience, basically 4 components. Cultural conditioning. So there is a male child obsession that I'll come to later. Lack of education. Economics, very, very important. India is primarily a poor country. So girl child seen as a financial burden. So therefore, girl get decentivized. Then medical malpractices. Sex determination, though it is banned in our country, but some of the doctors, they do this unethical job, and which leads to sex selective abortions. So when we talk about the economics, the economic context is the just one second. When we talk about the economic context, is a fundamental element in framing the discussion around the causes of female infanticide or feticide. So infanticide happens in a context of poverty, a primarily economic inhibitor, and hence the choice of killing a female child is seen as an economic choice. This is what I was discussing in one of the 4 components. And one data which I have seen in the literature says that about 500,000 unborn Indian girls are aborted every year after sex training. Now, let us compare. I mean, the previous speaker, she was trying to compare between males and the female. So in India, sons are perceived as assets. Why? Because security for old age. Because incidentally, in our country, there is no social security sort of thing. So it is perceived that son is a security for old age. They are the bearers of family name and identity. Therefore, they are being provided with better healthcare, better food, and better schooling. And there is another bad thing, that lack of male descendant in our society is considered as sin. On the other hand, it is perceived that daughters, they belong to the husband, right? They are financial burden, because a lot of dowry is expected from the girl side, which leads to nutritional and medical neglects. And this is also related to the conditioning, which starts with the neglect of mother also. And this is what is happening in our country, that mother often breastfeed boys longer than the girls. And mothers themselves are discriminated in the process against in food and rest after the birth of a girl. So a girl in her natal home is considered a temporary member. I mean, it is considered that she'll get married and go to her husband's house. And in her husband's house, she is considered as an outsider. So in both the scenarios, in both the paradigms, the girl is also always considered as a temporary member or an outsider. And as a sequel to this, quite often, they are being sold as a factory worker or as prostitutes. But then, is the perception a reality? So let us examine these facts. For example, education plays a very, very vital role. If we provide proper education to the girl child or to the woman folk, right, they'll build leaders of tomorrow, and they'll come out in a society and serve the society in a better way. And there are examples, role modeling leadership at every level. You name a sector, you'll find a female heading at least one of the most important department of that particular organization. So it is primarily because of the education. So education is extremely important, followed by empowerment. And then, as I've discussed, that women are ruling all the 5 elements which I have discussed just now. But then it's not an equal world. As yet, it's not an equal world. So a lot need to be done. And all of us need to roll up our sleeves to do little more than what is required with respect to rising awareness and government-backed incentives in the program means it's easier than ever, which pays to educate the girl child, which I was discussing little here. So what is the way forward? Way forward is we'll have to make a strategy and action plan for preventing feticide, infanticide jointly by the governments, both at the central level and the government level. Role of NGOs is very, very important, so as the civil society. We ought to have mass awareness program about prevention of crime against women. We'll have to do lot many things for poverty alleviation and women empowerment programs, and sustained education for men, women, children at different levels. That is essentially required. Before I close my presentation, I have some thoughts which I would like to discuss with all of you. Now, first thing is, the timing of this particular webinar on this topic is very, very appropriate, as it is happening during Navratri. This is an Indian festival, which is basically a celebration of woman power in the form of goddess Durga. So I must compliment the organizers who have organized this particular webinar at such a timing, wherein or at which period of time we are basically celebrating the woman power in the form of Devi Durga. Second thing is, in Hindu mythology, woman is an embodiment of Prakriti or the nature. This I have already discussed, that women is there in all the 5 essential elements across the universe. Third thing is, the birth of any living being is a cosmic interplay, a web of complex processes. It is a blessing which is to be celebrated and cherished, and creating bias over gender is an aberration, and it depicts the ignorance of a society. So that need to be taken care of. Finally, though every member of family is equally responsible, however, in our daily lives, house becomes a home for which women folk of family like mother, wife, daughter, they play a very, very crucial role. So, and finally, I would like to say that think about the paradox. There is a paradox. on one hand, we worship the female form as a goddess. On the other hand, the same society doesn't even consider a female form worth giving birth to. So therefore, today, which is the day of girl child, and this Navaratri period, let us pledge to treat women as equal beings. And that will be the start of an equal world. So I'm pretty sure that this particular topic is going to be a reality. And it will be that girls will be born in the days to come. But there is a gentle reminder for all of us, including women, that call for let girls be born requires an honest approach in improving the present status of women in all societies, irrespective of religion. This call needs action right from highest international forum to all governments, NGOs, religious groups, all communities, and above all, family unit members. With this, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So thank you so much, sir, for your such a compiled presentation. I will say some of the things that I was explaining to Tarja, the other speaker we have in the call, before everybody joined. I was telling her about goddess Durga, and you just presented in your presentation. I think few of the points that you mentioned in your slides, we are also working on it, like how NGO is going to be, how is the NGO going to make a big impact in this kind of scenario that we have in our country, and also the state and central government. Also, I will take a moment and appreciate our Prime Minister, Honorable Narendra Modi ji, because I think after 2020, after 2014, if you see, we have been doing little good, I'll say, in these areas, and things are shaping up well. But I think we need to do it on ground level, because India is such a huge country. Just to pass a government geo from somewhere and try to implement those, it will not be possible. But to people like you, we are proud to have you, to be honest, because people like you
Thank you
having
very much.
mindset,
Thanks for giving the opportunity to present my views.
no, it's
Thank you.
pleasure of mine to have a person like you, sir, because we have been doing since last 1 year, and I think we feel very honored to have people like you having 38 plus years of experience. That's a huge thing, to be honest, and I think.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for my former presentations. They were really insightful, and I'm happy to be part here. I would like to start with a quote that touched my heart this morning. And it's from Amanda Gorman. She's an American poet. And she said, "One thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright." I think that's really powerful statement because, I'm born in Finland, where the gender equality is very high, and we received the first country to obtain full political rights in 1906. And the movement started from 1850s, so we have a long history of women's rights. And I think it's, as Lakshmi Puri said, I think it's tragically ironic that the one who creates life is herself denied the right to be born. So without having that, basic right of to be born, and without, discrimination, we will not survive as a nation. And it really, I was reading some statistic this morning, and it was quite shocking, to be honest, because I read like 22.6 million girls are not being born because of the sex-selective abortion. And that's a huge number, and there's a lot to be done. As Dr. Anurag mentioned, education is crucial, but also those issues of, how we see women's role. Are women entitled to be part of the society as a whole, action-oriented women with their special talents and with their special gifts? And the cultural issues, as you were mentioning, with those rights from, because women, as you mentioned, I was reading this morning the United Nations report about this issue, how women are sent, out of the house, and men are protecting the house by, taking care of their parents. So I think the way to reach out to this is like in Finland after the Second World War, women were working in the factories. They were working because the men were at the war. So somebody had to do the work that men had usually done. And after the war was over, there was no, women didn't want to stay at home anymore. They wanted to work also, to be part of the society. But as early as 1906, Finnish women were, granted they could vote, but they could also come as a part of the parliament. And there is, many factors when it comes to gender-related abortion. One of them is to, have women to have the opportunity to work. And for that, they need, proper childcare. They need proper health care. They need proper education. They need to be recognized as a full-sized member of the society with their special skills. And what the problem is reaching out now is that because of the gender, because the technology has been able to recognize that, there are female fetuses, and they can be aborted because of the gender. And also the lack of the education, lack of the knowledge, lack of the appreciation of the woman. It's the whole society thing. And in order to fight for that, we have in Finland a very long history. It didn't happen overnight. The gender roles are not changed overnight, but they are changed by powerful persons like you and me. The first thing to do is to talk about these topics and to evaluate and to make it possible at legal terms to participate in the society at full as a woman. And part of that is the, ability to have child care, have health care, have the basic elements so that women can work and women can educate themselves, even though they have children. And I think it was early, I don't remember the exact year, but I think it was 1960 something that Finnish children gained a free meal from the school because the women were working outside of the house and they couldn't cook during the day. So in order to make it possible for every child to be fed, they made a free warm meal to Finnish school system. And all these little actions, they combine together as a whole system of supporting women. And as long as, we have this gender gap, we have this valuation, we have to build a system where it is possible. And the system starts with action. We can't build, we can talk about it, but we have to also make legal possibilities for women, like providing them healthcare, providing them children's care, providing a school system. And that's why, organizations like you are very important in building up that gap. So it really makes it possible to participate. So the social equality is in the system also, but it's in the family level as well. I was raised by a very strong woman myself. She was working outside of the house whole of her career. She was driving car, she was going anywhere. I was with her. I never thought of the gender gap. I never thought that I wouldn't be able to do something because of my gender. But this is a privilege for me. I realize that now. I realize seeing those statistics, those millions of girls who were not even given right to be born because of the gender. And that is really something that we must talk about. We must change the culture. We must change the legal system. We must change the healthcare system, the social care system, so that it really is possible. And for powerful people like, I'm sorry, Anurag, is that your first name? Yes. So we need that kind of people. Like we in Finland, we had like 1850s, they become talking about women's rights, children's rights. And they were really powerful, and we need to talk. And with that talk, we can make the change. And keeping up those rights in front of us, keeping up those statistics that are pretty horrifying, to be honest. We must work and we must do what we can to change the system. So I think it's both of those, as you mentioned, those social classes, regions. It's also different in urban areas and in countryside, how the women are being treated. They all have, ethnic groups, they all have impact on this. And to understand, who practices sex selection, we need to understand those groups. We need to understand their values, their systems, and help them to promote women's rights. So I think there is a lot of things we can do, a lot of collaboration, a lot of talking, and we need those powerful humans who support this system. And it's not an easy change. There is still gender gap existing, but it can be changed. I think Finland is a good example of that. We have done a long journey, 150, 170 years with gender equality. And our government is female-led, and there can be no gaps between genders when you apply for work or so. So it is possible, the change is possible. It's a long-term change, but it has to start. As a mother of 4, I cannot imagine, being in that situation where would I have to choose. Do I want that boy or do I want that girl? Every child has a right to be born, no matter what their gender is. So thank you for all the good work you do. And thank you for your presentations. They were really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sonu. And I would like to thank Child Chapter for giving me this opportunity today. Being a woman activist, being a maternal child wellness coach, and the national president of Childbirth Council for Child Chapter, I feel honored to get an opportunity to share my views on Save the Girl Child being International Girl Child Day. So I strongly feel that for us to let more girl childs be born, it's important for us to ensure that we are letting these children, whether it's a male or it's a female, we are letting children be classified as children and not as a girl child or a male child. And I think to bring around this change, the change cannot happen right at the time of birth, but when a child is born, so is a mother. Even a mother is born at that time, and so is a father. Even a father is born at that time. So to bring that change, I feel that we strongly need to start the change right from the birth of parents rather than calling it the birth of a child. sharing equal responsibility as parents, I think, is the first step towards breaking the sex discrimination in the society. When a child is born, we expect the mother to do everything for the child, whether it's feeding the baby, taking care of the baby, waking up in the middle of the night, changing diapers. It's just generalized, and it is just taken by the society that the mother has to sacrifice everything for the birth of the newborn baby. But when it comes to fathers, they are getting back to their system of going to work, or they are being supported by the family members, that the family will say that no, it's okay, we will help the woman instead of letting the husbands do the job. So it's very important to start empowering parents to share the responsibility to break the gender discrimination in the society. The moment we start expecting the fathers to share an equal responsibility in terms of taking care of the baby, I think that's where we can bring the biggest change in breaking the sex determination of children in the society. As children grow up, they observe the home environment, the parents, they do a lot of observational learning. So when they see that there is no sex discrimination at home, it does not mean that cooking is only the job of a woman. If the child, while growing up, sees that even the father is going into the kitchen and making meals for the child, or is going and doing grocery shopping for the child, the mother is going to office, and the moment you start seeing sharing responsibilities at home, children grow up understanding that there is nothing like discrimination of sex. They understand right from the beginning that gender equality is normal. And for us to bring that normalcy into the society, I think the biggest point is when a child is being born, as healthcare workers or as other people in the society, we need to start empowering parents to share responsibility. And when we do that, we are not only helping the couple, but we are also ensuring that we are helping the child who's born, whether it's a girl child or a male child. We're helping the child to be raised in a society, in a home environment that understands gender equality, that understands that whether it's a male child or a female child, they both deserve equal rights. Right to education, right to good health, right to nutrition, right? Right to employment when the child grows up, seeing equal opportunity in office. Yes, so
There's a lot of background noise coming from. I think someone is
okay,
talking behind you, and we are recording this session, so
okay,
please share it. So I will request you to please just use noise cancellation if you have your side, or tell them to be little,
okay,
if
okay,
it's possible,
okay, okay. So I'll quickly wrap up then in that case. So for me to just summarize it, it's important that we empower every parent when a child is being born to make sure that the parent raises the child in an environment where children are given equal opportunity irrespective of the gender. And for us, for people in the society, it's important that we let every child be born, whether it's a girl child or a male child, by being strict in terms of rules and regulations or the laws by the government to prevent prenatal sex determination. The moment we stop the prenatal sex determination, we are able to take a step towards stopping sex determination abortion. And if we get to know that there is anybody being caught with the act of sex determination abortion, immediate action should be taken. So I think a lot has been seen in India. If I talk about the laws in India, being a healthcare worker, I have seen in hospitals that great action is taken by the government in terms of preventing prenatal sex determination. And I'm hoping that something like this, would be done in other countries as well. And sorry for the disturbance in the background. And I would also like to, congratulate Child Chapter Association for, taking this initiative on this International Girl Child Day today, so that people like us can come together, use this platform, and encourage other people in the society to take an action towards it. So thank you so much, Sonu, for giving me this opportunity. I hand over to you.